Hello, and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast, where we are reshaping life, leadership, and business from the inside out. And today I'm welcoming all the way from London in the UK, Ruth Kudzi. Welcome to the show, Ruth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Beautiful flowers behind you. I should have said that before, by the way.
Yeah, I was looking at the flowers. I was like, I hope they still look good. But yeah, they do.
Yeah, they look gorgeous because it's summer. Is it summer in London? Is it
It
summer in
is.
London?
Yeah, it's summer. It's warm in London, so we don't get that much. It's like 30 degrees today. So,
Oh, really?
probably warmer than Australia right now.
Yeah, well, I'm in Melbourne and it's pretty cold here. So we're having a mild winter though. So summer for you, winter for me. I should also say a big shout out to the listeners, a big kind hello to everyone who is listening. Had an action packed conversation with Ruth today. We've just been chatting away pre-show, and you always know when it's going to be a great conversation when you're already chat, and you're like, we've got to hit record now.
Definitely.
Ruth, you have quite the story, and I relate to it a lot. And I'm sure a huge amount of the listeners will relate to this also. And it's not just someone from a female that relates to this. I think anyone can relate to this, whether you're male, female, whatever. It's something that always is, I guess, within us, and it's like, how do we break free from it without giving it away? So I'll get into it. You're the founder and CEO of Optimus Coach Academy. Optimus Coach Academy. You're also the proud mum of two girls, 9 and 11 years old, and you said that they might pop on in later. So if they, hi
Yeah.
girls. And Ruth, you've spent much of your life exploring a question that sits at the heart of human potential, and that is what becomes possible when we stop questioning our worth and start trusting who we are. Oh my gosh, how often do we question our worth? It's exhausting. You're a psychologist, educator. Previous to Optimus Coach Academy, you were a vice principal. So education has run through your blood for quite some time. So like I said, a psychologist, educator, best-selling author, and founder of Optimus Coach Academy, had the business for 10 years. Ruth, you've trained thousands of coaches around the world through a whole person approach that integrates psychology, coaching, and human development. And an important inflection point emerged for you when you recognized that things were possible for yourself and that you were good enough. Amen to that. Honestly, when we can get to that point, we know we're our whole selves, don't we? We know we're fully interconnected. And so that shift really did reshape not only your own life, also the way you approach leadership, coaching, and transformation. And so today your work is focused on helping people move beyond performance and potential into that deeper self-awareness, better decision making, and meaningful growth. And your journey reflects a shape shift from proving worth to helping others discover their own. And so at the heart of your work sits a simple question, and that is, what becomes possible when we stop fixing ourselves and start trusting ourselves?
Yeah.
So good. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Like what? Yeah, share.
Yeah. So I think that lots of people are going to resonate that. Right. So another kind of addition is that I found out that I had ADHD like in the last few years. So that I think kind of amplified some of my feelings growing up because I really like, even though I have friends, I did well at school, like all of that was always there. But there was always something like I didn't feel like I was quite good enough. I didn't feel like I quite fitted in. And I couldn't, it wasn't like I could put my finger on, I wasn't as good at maths, so I wasn't as, because actually I I was fine, I was pretty good. I wasn't the top of the class and everything, but I was pretty good. But it was more of that feeling. It was more of that, maybe a bit of comparison, but more like, when you feel in your bones, like everybody else seems to have it sorted and I don't. That kind of, what is wrong with me? What,
Yes.
like, and I reckon that probably most of us feel this, and it's, especially like when you're going through your teenage years and things, you're kind of like everyone else seems to have it sorted and I don't. And so I think for a long time, like I was doing fine in life. I was, I got my degree, I traveled, I lived in Australia, I did lots of stuff. but there was still that kind of that lack of self-trust, and I think for
Mm.
that, it was, like, looking externally, very much thinking, "Oh, well, maybe it'll be when I get" you know, when I earn lots of money, maybe that's gonna be different. And I worked in recruitment and sales, lived in New York, lived in the UK, earned lots of money, wore designer clothes, drank champagne. Still here. I still feel this kind of,
What's wrong with
that
me?
didn't fix it. Like, the money
Yeah.
didn't fix it. I was
No.
still the same. In a way, probably a little bit more disconnected from myself because
Mm.
I thought it would be the fix. I thought, I've been watching Sex and the City and reading all the magazines. I was like, right, if I've got this, I'll be, that will be the answer. And then I think I realized, like, right, okay, the answer isn't money. Like, I'm not saying that money's not important. If
100%.
only we lived in, like, a life and it wasn't, but it is. And then I was like, well, maybe the answer is like meaning. Okay. So maybe I need to start thinking about what actually gives me energy and meaning. And that's how I got into education. And that was a real kind of moment when I was like, oh, like, I find this easy. I enjoy this. It's something that I'm meant to do. But even though I remember when I first went into a classroom with teenagers, I felt alive. I felt I have meaning. I still remember, like, those first years, you know, not thinking I was good enough, crying, being emotional, all of those things, because I still hadn't caught up. I still didn't trust myself. I still thought, okay, I need to be better. I need to be this. I need to be that. And it's like I holding myself up to this kind of external level of success and who I was. And I would never have been able to compete there because actually there wasn't ever an end point. It was like, oh, well, maybe, it was always, I need to do more. And that was the thing that really kind of my engine was, if I do more, and maybe that's more development, maybe that's working harder, then that will make me be more. And that was kind of what I was telling myself for a long, long time.
Fascinating. Fascinating. I was waiting for you to keep going, and you're waiting for me.
Okay,
You're
I was
waiting.
like, "Okay,
No, no, no. You're waiting for me to ask a question, and I'm like, keep going,
you go."
Ruth. Because no, because I guess for me, I've been writing stuff down, and you said need to do more, be more. At what
Yeah.
point? And then you talk about this. You talk about your ADHD diagnosis, and what's going on for me is this identity piece that when we're some identities we get to choose, others we don't get to choose. And we can live with these identities that we don't get to choose for years and years and years. And then we finally get to this point where you're so exhausted by the need to do more and the need to prove yourself. And something happens where you're just like, I'm done. And then it's almost like you understand more about yourself. And so you go, okay, I didn't choose this identity. Now, how do I work with it versus running away from it? And so I wanted to ask you, was it like in terms of when did this realization come through for you? And was the ADHD diagnosis part of like you just going, okay, I get it now? Or did that come later?
Yeah, that came later. I mean, I think a big part for me was actually kind of when I hit 30, just around that time, my dad had been really ill. Um, sadly passed away. And I remember being in this job. Yeah. And I remember being really miserable. And I went to Rome with my girlfriends, and one of my closest friends said to me, why are you doing something that makes you so miserable? Why are you continuing in this place where you're not valued? You deserve to be somewhere that you're valued. Now, I think that she and other people have probably said that to me many, many times. But for me, that was like a catalyst that went, wait a minute, I do deserve to be valued. So that kind of led on to like a succession of events where I left that job. I went into a different job. I say there were quite a few, probably about 3 years when I was in that new job where I was finding myself. Like, so the job was quite, uh, it, it was like I ran projects and things like that. So it wasn't a high intensity job. But It built my confidence. I was able to own things. It was fun. Because I was trusted in that role, I really have free reign. And that meant I learned to trust myself too. So I think I got really lucky with actually listening to my friends in that moment. And then from there, I was able to, so I got really lucky in listening to her. Then I got this job, like the universe was like, okay. And that job gave me the space to learn to trust myself. And from there, things really changed. So from there, I then had the confidence and self trust and belief in myself to go on this fast track leadership program and to apply. And I would never have done that before. So it was like a moment in time where someone basically said, "You deserve to be valued." And I heard it. And then this job, like this, I think
Just
when she
opened
said
up.
that, the job just came, right? So at that point, I was like, I don't know what to do because I can't, I've got my own flat, I've got all of this stuff, apartment, probably call it in Australia. I've got my own apartment. Like I need to be, I can't just stop, I can't just stop working with, and this job is like, it's like it was the perfect role. And that was really where I started to think I have been the whole time looking externally, like money, meaning, relationship, like all of this stuff. But actually, I started to go internally. And interestingly, uh, actually, when as I said, was a catalyst that got me into like this leadership role, vice principal, and this leadership development thing, which is program. So it's a national program where I met two girls who are still really close friends who actually do stuff in my training school now. And that was when I was like, oh my gosh, these people see me as a leader. Like there were
Yeah.
thousands of people that applied. They see me as a leader. I'm in these roles now. So I have to start acting as a leader. And
Mm.
so I think sometimes there's just these moments in life where, if you listen to the signs, you realize that you have to go down a different track. And I'm sure that if I really thought, there was probably moments before then, but I wasn't ready. I
No.
wasn't ready to go, oh, actually, it can come from me. I was too busy looking outside,
And
and
mm. And
and I think
comparing
that's what
yourself, no doubt, like you said, comparing yourself to others and kind of going, why aren't I here yet? Or, and I think you've got to go through, everyone has their own journey, don't they?
yeah,
And sometimes when you don't listen, you just like, you get this shaking, like something happens to you from an external perspective. Cause I totally relate to buying all the clothes, spending all the money. I look back now and go, oh my gosh, I was out of control. I was out of control. Like if I even like, it's just hilarious because I was buying self-worth for myself. Like I was almost like putting buying things to put onto my self-worth because I didn't know how to love myself or think that I was good enough, if that makes sense. So I look and I just go, because I've got quite the wardrobe, no doubt like you, where I still
yeah,
put stuff
yeah.
in and I go, oh yeah, geez, I just used to just drop that down on a week. Every Saturday was like, what can I go and buy this week to make myself feel good? Because
Yeah.
I didn't have any self-worth.
Well, I think it's such a thing, isn't it? Because again, I think, the media and everything. I love magazines. I love the media. I love all of this. But we're fed these images. And if we don't know who we are, we're like, okay, well, if we look like that, then things will be different. So it's really easy, isn't it, to think to do that. And I think we can carry guilt and shame and all, but actually that's probably part of our journey as well. So it's never feeling bad about these pieces.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing then with the people that you're working with, in terms of, is it generally like, because I love your notion around stop trying to fix, you're not broken essentially. It's
Yeah.
like stop trying to fix things, because we can go on also these journeys of I need to fix this, and if I fix this, it'll be better. all of that. And then again, that becomes exhausting in itself when actually it's the ability just to be able to go deeper into ourselves and be more present and sit with all the uncomfortable stuff. Like, tell us a little bit about how you're working with your clients and also what
Yeah.
you're seeing at this point in time in terms of like the sort of things that you're noticing that are more prevalent than ever. 'Cause I'm sure there is.
My gosh, there's so much. Right, so I'm just gonna talk about the things that I'm noticing, and I'm gonna bring it back
Yeah,
to my clients. So
totally.
I'm noticing in the personal development industry as well. I'm noticing that the industry's really matured. So
Yeah,
it was, it used to be like we have these gurus, and I don't think that most of them, like they were motivational speakers. I don't think most of them thought they were gurus. They just thought they
yeah,
had a message to share. But
yeah.
we're seeing that people are becoming a little bit disenfranchised with that. I think as the industry's matured and we're starting to realize, again, they can't solve my problems.
No.
Maybe they're great message and I can take some of that message, but I think there was a lot of outsourcing. And I've done it as well, like outsourcing to somebody that you think is going to give you the answer rather than going inward. So I'm definitely seeing this shift where people are going, right, actually, what do I need? So
Yes.
personal development is actually becoming personal, which does mean, yes, of course we need teachers. Of course we need different ideas. But actually it's about how do you yourself listen to what you need and who you want to become rather than always taking that advice from other people. So I
So
think
true, isn't it? Because for
yeah,
so long, without shitting on the personal development
yeah,
courses and, all of those, this is what's wrong with you. It's almost like being this like way of, yeah, telling you that you need to fix yourself and you need to do all of this when actually it's almost like taking your power back in a way, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the
Sorry, I
girls
just
have
got a
the
cup
girls
of
just,
tea. We just
sorry, I thought the girls just popped on
when
in. I
yeah,
was
in
gonna
the
say, "Hi,
background.
girls."
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, yeah. So actually, it's going, you're not broken. But I also think that people really reevaluating what they want from life. So if we think, the Great Reset, I'm not gonna mention the C word, but the Great Reset that we talk about 6 years ago, 2020, actually, so many people were able to pause, and so many of us don't pause.
Yeah,
Yeah, so many of us don't pause. We just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. We hit 65, we retire, the end. Like that is really what most people do because we were never taught to.
no,
And so I think with that, people are going, oh, wait a second. I could have a different way of life. Like maybe I don't need to be in the office the whole time. Maybe
mm,
I could live, in Mexico or Barbados or Bali or Portugal and run a business from there.
yeah,
Maybe if I did that, I wouldn't need as much money. Wait a second. Maybe my life could be really, really different. Maybe I don't have to have an employer. Maybe I could do it myself. And actually, what is it that is really driving me? And I think that that kind of external focus is changing. And I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to go a bit more internal. And a lot of my clients, they say to me, I want peace. I want meaning and I want peace. I want to feel peace within myself and with my life. And I think it's kind of like we're coming out of the like do more, do more, do more. And we're seeing people actually really thinking about at what cost? Like, how can I create a life that I want that I'm not looking at 30 years or 20 years when I retire. I'm enjoying it now. And I think maybe that was as well because people are starting to realize anything can happen. And that delaying, you were talking about like when I do X, when I've got this bit fixed, when I've got that bit fixed, and actually it's a bit more about how can I accept where I am right now? How can I love my life and myself now? Doesn't mean I don't want to do other things. Doesn't mean I don't want to develop. But if I'm able to be there, it's going to be a change because again, who knows what the future holds? So I
yeah,
think,
it's so true, and it's when you say it in a way that it just seems so simple. How do
yeah,
I accept now? How do I just, but finding peace is it's a journey, I'm 48, turning 49 this year, and, like, I can honestly say it's taken me this long to get to finding peace, because up until probably the last 12 months, I feel peaceful. Like, there's days, don't get me wrong, I get stressed and things, like you're not always at your best. There's when you find that peace within, it's a really nice place to get to. And so then it's also reminding yourself on those days when you do jump ahead, or you're thinking about, like, I even mentioned it to you before. I was like, oh, I started doubting myself. Well, not doubting myself, and you said, well, you'll get there. Like, it was a good reminder because I was jumping ahead. And so my question for you is, how do we get better at accepting where we are right now, and enjoying that and being at peace with that? Because I think there are so many leaders and so many people out there that are
Yeah.
looking for that, and yeah, just don't know how to do it.
I think a big part of this, and it's funny because I'm 48 as well. So when you were saying that, I was like, oh, like, I think there's a life stage as well, isn't there? Like, I think,
Totally, yeah.
like,
All
yeah,
vibes, life
we do.
changes,
Yeah.
hormones, all of it.
All of it, all of the above. We do meet people sometimes, don't we, who are in their 20s and they found it, they've got peace. But I do wonder if there is part of the age where we go through these different iterations. We talk about identity, we go through these different iterations, we go through these different identities, we go through this kind of quest externally. And maybe we have to do that before we can go internally and go, wait a second, what do I need?
Yeah,
And there's a lot I hear about awareness, isn't there? Like, who actually are you? And acceptance. So we mentioned, like, the ADHD. Um, I'm not gonna, like, there are things that because of that, I will probably not do or do in a different way. And it's accepting, okay, like, my desk is never going to be fully tidy. I'm looking at it now. It's never going to be fully tidy. That isn't who I am. Unless obviously I've got visitors coming, then my whole house is suddenly tidy. But that isn't who I am. And so going, right, but is that important? Is that really something that drives me? No. Doesn't mean that I don't think doesn't mean that I wouldn't love my house to look like a show home.
yeah,
But I have to go, really, right now, for me, is this a priority? No. So stop making yourself feel bad, because the amount of time that we make ourselves feel bad about things, honestly, again, ADHD, rejection sensitivity. So, you'd be like, oh, maybe they don't like, actually, maybe they don't like me, but what can I do? And I always come back to, like, Stephen Covey. I don't know if you like that, circles of control and influence. If we can spend as much time as possible in what we can control, so we're
yeah.
making decisions for
Control.
us.
Well, yeah,
What am I gonna eat for dinner? What am I gonna watch tonight? What am I going to do with my day? How do I want to feel? What do I need? Rather than thinking that, spending time looking at what we can't control, spending time looking at what others do. I think when we're able to really know ourselves and accept ourselves, then we can get peace. But if we don't accept it, if we feel like parts of ourselves are wrong, as you said before, and need to be fixed, we're never going to get there. So I
yeah,
think there's a big journey here of just going, I'm okay with who I am. But even before we get there, it's, who am I? Who
yeah, I
is this
agree.
person?
Do you
Yeah.
think do you think that, I mean, obviously there's a real loneliness epidemic right now. There's a lot of change in the world, full stop. We're fundamentally undertaking a full revolution when it comes to technology and everything else. Do you think it's worse than ever? Do you think this identity crisis, if you like, I don't like calling it a crisis. Like, do you think more than ever we are unsettled or disconnected from ourselves? And I want to bring it into what you mean by the whole person approach, because I'm all about the whole person. I don't believe in well-being, I believe in whole being. Like, do you think it's worse than ever, or do you just think that people are just exhausted from just the way the world, like, let's face it, since COVID time, and COVID was so long ago now. Yeah, yeah,
Think, right, we have got more demands on us than ever
than ever.
Like if you think about like when we were younger, we maybe a friend might take a picture of us when we were out. Maybe, even when I lived in Australia when I was 19, I used to write letters. So I wouldn't be expecting a reply
Yeah,
for like 2 weeks,
yeah,
And now we expect it in 2 minutes. Like
yeah.
we're putting all of this pressure on ourselves, but actually, like the way we communicate is different. Like how many people don't actually speak on the phones? They don't speak to people, they just text.
Well,
Um,
voice note. Oh, the voice noting, like, I'm like, oh. Sometimes
like a
I
mini
think,
podcast, a mini podcast to people.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah,
you're
mini
like,
podcasts. I had a voice note the other day, right? It was 20 minutes long. I was like, "Are you kidding?" It took me, like, forever to listen to it because I was like, "Well, I'm not actually talking to you, so why would I
yeah,
just sit and listen to?" I don't know, like, call me weird, but I was just like, that is just adding to my cognitive load. I felt stressed when this person said, "I've got a 20-minute voice message." I'm like, "What? How am I
yeah,
gonna remember?"
I would be like, that would really stress me out. I think so basically, you said cognitive load. Our cognitive load has got so much bigger. And I
Mm,
think, again, because we feel like we're busier, because things like workplaces can contact us all the time, it makes people want to be on the whole time. And I think
mm,
that therefore they're losing actually being part of a community. They're
yeah,
losing like those little connections. Like there's crazy stuff. Like we live opposite the forest. So we live right on the edge of London. We live opposite a
yeah,
massive forest. And every morning we go for a walk. And even say like there's evidence that even saying hello to people, even communicating with those people in that very simple way, we see about the same 20 people every day, that is really good for your well-being and your mental health. But lots
mm,
of people don't do that. Like lots of people believe that they don't have time, and they're becoming isolated behind screens, with technology. Yes, it can build relationships, but I think it can also not. And so many people, they live on their own, they don't know their neighbors, they don't have those relationships. And I think if that is you, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is me," start to think about those small things that you can do, like really simple things like go to the same yoga class every week,
yeah,
go to the same cafe to have your coffee, get to know the people who work there. Those little relationships will blossom. But again, it's just really simple things. And, think, what do I really like doing? Is it yoga? Do I like concerts? Do I like, and I think I don't know. I also feel like there's been like a decline in people going, and I'm not religious, but a decline in people going to church and places like that. And you used to have a lot of community there as well. So
yeah,
there's like
absolutely.
technology, there's changes in the way that we live, changes in the way that we work. And all of this, I think, are making people again, you know, I'm lonely, so maybe there's something wrong with me.
Mm.
Yeah, again. And when you're alone with your thoughts a lot, that's when you can really start to spiral and think, well, there is one,
Totally. It's
right?
so yeah. How do you as like a coach and obviously thousands of people that you've worked with and having gone on your own journey, I'm always fascinated and a psychologist as well, right? And it's quite emotionally, it's emotionally heavy. I won't say taxing. There's a lot of like you are dealing with people who are really quite like working on themselves, and so you're going deep within, and I can tell by your energy, you're a very caring person. I also think you just call people out on their bullshit, but
Yeah, do.
when they need to like get out of your head sort of thing, and I love that. I can just feel that you would do that. How do you make sure that you're constantly realigning with your whole self as well? Because there must be days where you come out of this. Plus, you've got two young girls. Like, how do you manage it?
Like, it's again, so you asked about needs. So, like, that whole, like, really thinking, what do I need? And we talked about the whole person. So, cognitively, like, we spend too much time up here. And, like, so actually, what does my body need? What does my soul need? Like, so I said about walking in the forest, like, catching up with friends. Like, I always think about how can I feed what I need so I can feed it to others. And for me, it's like exercise. It's boring. It's like exercise, diet, friends. Like actually, going for coffees with people, meeting up with people, having conversations, like actually having that in person. So for me, it is thinking about like I had a client years ago, and they used to talk about how flowers need soil and you need to nurture them. They need
Yeah.
sunlight, they need water, they need nutrients. We're the same. And I think we divide, don't we, like the physical self and the cognitive self. But actually, if we are looking after ourselves physically, if we're getting enough sleep, if we are, which isn't always easy, but if we are like doing our best to, if we are exercising, if we're eating right, and all of those things, obviously not obsessively, but if we're doing that, it's going to help us in terms of our thoughts as well. So it's kind of thinking like, what is really helpful for my body is really helpful for my brain too.
Yeah, so true. I stayed up late last night and I paid for it today. Before back in my old day when I was, perform, working 80, 100 hours a week and like sometimes averaging 3 to 4 hours of sleep was not sustainable. And I did 6 hours last night and I'm religious now around 7 is my minimum. 8 is 7.5, 8. I still wake up at night. I really noticed it this morning and I was just like, like that was silly what I did because it doesn't put me in the best. Like I'm great, I'm fine, but I feel physically tired and it's like physically, and you just kind of supposed again, how do you it's all those foundations that you need to continually build on because I also think, and I'm sure you would too, that when your foundations are rocky, that's when you also start to get in your head and you start to question if things go wrong or something, you've had a shitty day or something's happened, you go down that rabbit hole of, oh, I'm not good enough, self-worth, I've got to fix this. You go into more effort mode. And actually what you're being asked to do is pull back and actually just accept that you're tired and accept that you need to take a break and you're going to feel way more better for it. And I think quite often leaders and people in business, it's the most simplest thing, and yet it's just sometimes so foreign. Do you see that as well? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like there's all of these things, aren't they? Like, and we say like slow down to speed up, take a rest, da, da, da. But so many people think rest is a reward. They think rest is kind of for the weak. They think rest is,
yes,
rest is what I'll do when. Yeah.
yeah,
But actually, cognitively as well, for our brain and our
mm,
nervous system, if we're
mm,
able to rest, if we're able to lower our levels of cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline, if we're able to really connect with ourselves, we will get better ideas, we will perform better. Like all of these things will happen, but people seem to still be in this. It's kind of a little bit like I was saying, like just do more. Like if
yeah,
I do more. And it's interesting because I don't think that this is a European thing. I think it is an American, UK, Australian. I
I
think
agree.
that
I couldn't
we have it, but Europe don't have it. So it's really interesting why we have taken on this identity of doing more. But actually, for us, people who are like an hour over the channel haven't. And I think that is a really interesting kind of thing that what has it been about this particular group of people who live in 3 different countries who speak English but seem to have this kind of um drive to always be on.
Yeah, it's
And
like that whole work to live or live to work,
yeah.
and so for me, it feels like a little bit of that. Let's talk about that for a second though, Ruth, because there is this, I guess, way of being in terms of if I do more, I'll be more successful. I'll earn more money. I'll be able to go on more holidays. I'll be able to buy the clothes. I'll be able to do all of that. And when we sit still and when we're present, it's interesting when you all the signs and what comes through. And look what happened to you when you fell into that role. You listened to your friends. You were ready to listen. And then next thing you know, this role gets gifted to you in a way. Again, it's easy enough said than done just to stop and trust the process, trust yourself. What advice do you give to your clients? Because it is I mean, if we all just didn't do anything, and this is where for me the performance piece comes into it as well. If we just sat still and didn't do anything, we can't just expect it all just to kind of drop in. There's still got to be work done, right? So there is for me a performance component to it. Not the
Yeah.
performance probably not. Like, what's your view on that, and what do you what do you coach your clients on about that?
So I think it's about getting people to reimagine success, because success is
Yes.
often like we've talked about it so like already so many times, but we often perceive something as success. And so when we're even looking at, right, so success means these holidays, it means this, it means that. What if you worked less each week? How much do you think you need to have those holidays? And what we're not saying is, no, we're saying like going from 80 hours to maybe 35 hours. Yeah,
Mm,
like, obviously, you probably wouldn't do that straight away because that's a massive adjustment. Like,
yeah.
again, for most of us, like, people be like, "Oh, that sounds great." But if you're used to working 80 hours, you're not gonna that's gonna be
No.
that's gonna be for you. But actually starting to go like, "Well, what if?" So, imagine like, getting them to reimagine success, getting them to really connect with what success is for them, and then getting them to really think about what they want their life to look like. So
Mm,
doing a little bit of kind of forward focus work, visualization, really getting them to think, right, this is what I want my life to look like. And then that is the starting point. So I think the more that we're able to work with our clients, helping them to imagine their future, helping them to really connect
future
with
self.
who they want to be, that's driving everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I've got a couple of final questions for
Yeah,
you.
cool.
Business. You've been in business for 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you've had all the highs and lows and all the in-betweens. What keeps you going? Like, what is it that I mean, I think I know the answer. I'd love to know
Yeah.
for the listeners, have you had the I'm sure you have your moments where it's just like, "Oh," and I guess because there's a lot of listeners out there, it's a as much as the world is kind of in upheaval, it's a really interesting time for a lot of to be an entrepreneur right now, and there's a lot of opportunities. Mm,
Definitely. I think it's coming back to why do you do this? Like coming back to, so when I sit and I'm like, what do I love doing? I love like being with my clients. I love training. I love coaching. Right. Okay. So if I know I love that, let's come into and think about, well, what are the solutions I can find? And, for me, again, when I'm getting really into my head, when I'm like, oh my gosh, this hasn't worked, or that, that client hasn't paid their bill, okay, let's get out of my workspace. Let's really give myself some time to go, what are the solutions? Because there's always solutions. So I'm a big believer in, if this is what you love doing, you will find solutions, but don't make yourself, most of the entrepreneurs I know who are successful, who are still around, they have one thing that other people who left entrepreneurship didn't have. And that is they do not give up. Like I literally, I
so
says,
close to the camera too. They do not give up. I feel
they
like
do not give up.
it's
Like
so
that's
good.
it. That
So
is a
good.
secret sauce. They do not give up.
I
Okay.
agree.
So as much as you can build your resilience, as much as you can build your tenacity, that is what's going to put you in good stead. And remember that thinking that you're going to close down your business, looking for jobs, having those months where maybe you got cash flow wrong. That is part of it because that is a learning. And so often we make ourselves feel, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? How about going, what is the learning here? What is the lesson that I need to take on board so
Yeah, I
this doesn't
agree.
happen again? And the more we can do that, the more that we're going to stay in business. Yeah. And that
Incredible.
is 10 years down the line. And by the way, those lessons don't stop. And so again, I always say to my team, like one of my team, I'm like, oh, another learning today. And we're like,
Yeah.
can we have a few less learnings in the next few weeks so we can just
Yeah,
relax a little
I
bit?
agree.
And then, but it's always that. It's always going
Yeah,
to be that.
I agree. I agree, and it's so true. And you know what comes up for me as well is how do you create that anti-fragility, like the anti-fragile system beyond just resilience? So it's like, how do you continue to bounce forward? How do you learn from it and bounce forward once you've experienced that fragile moment? We've covered a lot in this conversation. What would be, Ruth, if you could go back to yourself before you came to your realization around I am worth it, I am good enough, I don't need to fix anything anymore, what would have you said to yourself back when you were buying all the designer clothes, doing everything like for me, because I'm the same, right? You were almost operating from the outside in versus the inside out. What would you say to yourself? Because I'm sure there's a number of listeners that are on this watching this now, and they're going to be going, My gosh, I don't know how to get out of this outside in way of being. I just want to get out of it.
I would say take a step back and look at everything that you've got. Like, give yourself space to get to know yourself and stop looking for the answers in other places because you've got them. You've got them inside.
Yeah,
Uh, you need to think about how you how you get them out rather than thinking that everything is external.
love it. Ruth, such a great conversation. Thank you. You've given me some good, healthy reminders as well. It's always a pleasure talking to people like yourself. You're very inspiring. How do we find out more about Optimus Coach Academy, and how do we find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm the only Ruth Kudzi, which is quite cool. So Ruth Kudzi on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and then it's
Well,
Optimus Coach Academy as well. So it's Optimus. Yeah, and I'd love
amazing.
to hear from you.
Thanks, Ruth. Such a good conversation. It's the start of your day. I think what is it, 10, 9?
No, it's nearly 8. So it's
8 a.m.
really
There you
early.
go. Early bird. Early bird.
Early
Well,
bird, yeah.
enjoy that 30 degrees day as
I
we
would
go
do.
into our winter evening. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.